Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now.
Hi, this is Steph Cuthbert. Welcome to Monday Morning Chat. Today I thought that I would read to you from the Amulet of Hearts. The Amulet of Hearts is book 1 in the Genesis Guardian Chronicles, which is a time travel series for young adults. The Amulet of Hearts will be available on the 22nd of September. However, it will be up for pre-order soon on Kindle, Apple, and a few other platforms. It's also going to be available direct from Smashwords too. So I thought that I would start by reading. Chapter 1. Where are you going? Jenny grasped her mother's arm and tugged her away from the small pile of folded clothes she was putting into a backpack on the double bed. Francesca never used a suitcase when she travelled. Your dad and I have to leave. There is important work to be done, said Francesca, pulling away. She didn't meet Jenny's glare, and her tone was tired, like she'd had this conversation with Jenny 100 times. Her mouth was drawn, and there were lines around it that Jenny had never noticed before. She'd lost weight too, a bit too much. You can't leave now. You only got home last week. What about Grandad? Don't you care about him? That's not fair. Francesca ran a hand through her long black hair and turned a hard gaze to Jenny. I love my father, and I understand that he is unwell, but some things are bigger than family, Genesis. Don't call me that, said Jenny, tugging at the hem of her school dress. What can possibly be more important than family? You're historians. The past isn't going anywhere. Francesca muttered something under her breath that sounded like, I wish, then turned her attention back to packing. The strange orange light of the afternoon sun shone through the window of the smallest bedroom, giving everything a surreal glow, turning dust motes to fireflies. Jenny sat cross-legged on the bed, watching her mother. They were in Francesca and Amari's room, which was half the size of Jenny's. The bed was a base and a mattress with a thin beige quilt and 2 sad flat pillows. It was covered with a blanket crocheted in once bright colours that had faded with each year it sat on top of the often empty bed. Jenny's grandmother had made it for Francesca when she was 15, the same age as Jenny. That was a year before Grandma had died. There were 2 bedside tables, one either side of the small bed. On her mum's side was a photo of Grandad Matthias and Grandma Rosa, which had been taken in Paris where they met as teenagers. They were dressed so formally, Grandad in a suit and bowler hat, and Grandma in a 2-piece skirt suit, and stood stiffly on the Champs-Élysées with a half-constructed Arc de Triomphe in the background. Jenny thought she'd read somewhere that the Arc de Triomphe had been built by Napoleon, but she must have been wrong because that would have been well before Grandad and Grandma's time. There was a half bottle of perfume and a gold ring next to the photo. Jenny ran her fingertips over the gold lid of the perfume and inhaled. The heady floral scent hit her, bringing forward echoes of the past when being pressed against her mother, breathing the scent on her neck was the only thing that pushed back the dark feelings inside her. Her father's bedside table was bare, except for a small brass lamp and a single book, A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. It was tattered and dog-eared, and the only book she had ever seen him read. Last year he kept a watch with a face full of diamonds that looked like stars next to the book. He had given it to her as a gift for her 15th birthday, so it sat on her wrist instead of his bedside table. It didn't work anyway. Opposite the bed was a built-in wardrobe with a single door, which was flung open, and Francesca walked the 4 steps between it and the end of the bed with another armful of clothes, all of them black. Why are you doing this to me? Jenny crossed her arms over her chest. This isn't about you. Francesca folded each piece of clothing in half, then rolled it tightly and put it neatly in the bag. Her packing skills were an art form. If Jenny were to list her mum's skills, they would be 1. Master packer, 2. Absent mother, 3. Blame shifter. Then what is it about? Maybe I could come with you this time. I could help. The desperation in her voice made her stomach churn. You can't come because you have school, but we'll try to call. Yeah, right. They never called. What if Granddad dies while you're gone? Tears prickled. Tears pricked the corner of her eyes, and she swallowed hard. He won't, and it will only be a quick trip, a week, 10 days at the most, said Francesca, placing another piece of perfectly folded black clothing into the bag. She didn't look up at Jenny. Please go and get your father. Why don't you get him yourself? Francesca sighed and closed her eyes, her back hunched, palms pressed into the mattress like it was the only thing stopping her from falling. She was too thin, too pale. Jenny wanted to cross the room and put her arms around her mum, but she put them around herself instead. Shadows from the trees in the garden threw themselves across the photo of her grandparents. Jenny stared, unblinking, until Granddad's face faded to nothing, like a foreshadowing of the inevitable future. When are you leaving? Asked Jenny, fists balled tightly. Tonight. Of course. The bitterness in her mouth seeped into her words. She stood up and walked out of the bedroom into the hall. She ran her hand along the faded floral wallpaper, and her mother caught hold of it. I don't want to leave things like this, my love, said Francesca, turning Jenny to face her. Jenny glanced at her. I don't want you to leave at all. Stay. Stay with me. Please. Francesca shook her head slowly. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. She pressed something small and warm into Jenny's hand. Jenny glanced down. It was a gold ring, the ring that had been sat on Francesca's bedside table. Take this. I can't, said Jenny. It's yours. You take it everywhere. It's yours now. Keep it close. Then you will have a part of me here with you. Francesca pushed Jenny's hair out of her face. You remind me so much of myself. Sometimes it's hard to look at you. Why? Because I disappoint you? Jenny's voice was thick. No, because there's so much anger inside you. She ran a hand over Jenny's black hair. There is a darkness too. I feel it sometimes, calling to the darkness inside me. I sometimes think those dark things will feed from each other if we let them. Jenny stared at the watermark on the wall, trying to make sense of her mother's words. Sometimes when Francesca and Amari spoke, it was like another language, or code. The things they said were strange and echoed inside her. The words floated in her brain, trying to connect to all the other strange words they had spoken, trying to build a story from them, a story that would make sense of her life. Keep the ring, my love. Jenny slipped the ring into the pocket of her dress and walked down the hall, past her own room and Granddad's closed door to the stairs. She paused at the top step and glanced at her mother, who was already walking away from her, back to her room to pack her things and leave. Chapter 2. Mum wants you. Jenny walked into the kitchen where her father was chopping carrots. She leaned against the yellowing bench top next to him. The dim kitchen light caught the greys interspersed through his black hair, and they shone like silver threads. Am I in trouble? Amari glanced at her and raised his thick eyebrows in exaggerated worry. Not that I'm scared of your mum. Me neither, said Jenny. They shared a grin, but Jenny's fell quickly. Mum told you? He continued chopping the carrots. Chop, chop, chop. Told me what? That you're abandoning me and Granddad again? Yes, she told me. We aren't abandoning you. Chop, chop, chop. The small orange disc rolled across the bench and tumbled to the floor. You know how important our work is. No, I don't. I don't know anything about your work. Jenny pushed herself away from the bench. I thought you would listen to me, but you're just like Mum. You don't care. He put down the knife and turned to Jenny, crossing his arms in front of him. A gesture Jenny had absorbed. I do care. That is why I have to leave. You aren't making any sense, Dad. Listen. Amari's voice dropped low and he stepped closer to her, his tall frame towering over her so the space between them was crushed. He smelled like carrots and citrus. Something big is happening. I can't give you any details, so please don't ask me, but I need to fix certain things. What are you talking about? You're worrying me. I know, I'm sorry. If I don't do this, if I don't fix all the things that are wrong, it's the end of everything. You mean you'll lose your job? Yes and no. Please let me do this. I promise this is the last time. His brown eyes were wide and lines of worry crossed his forehead like trenches. Please. Okay, Dad. Jenny didn't understand what her dad was talking about, but was relieved when his face relaxed a bit. Were they both delusional that their jobs as historians were so important, or was there more to it? Just promise you won't be long. I hate it when you aren't here. Amari pulled her into a rough hug, and the stubble on his chin grazed her face. When he let go, he ran a calloused hand over her cheek. I know things don't make sense right now, but they will soon, whether your mother likes it or not. What does that mean? It means that Mum and I don't have much time. You're nearly 16. His hand fell from her cheek, and he turned back to the carrots. Chop, chop, chop. Jenny opened her mouth. No more questions, sweetheart. I'll see you at dinner. So thank you for listening to the first 2 chapters of the Amulet of Hearts. Just a reminder, it will actually be available to purchase on the 22nd of September, available for pre-order very shortly, and I will post all those links as they come up. And in the meantime, if you like, you can hit me up on Facebook or Twitter, my website, wherever, and order one of these signed postcards. There's the blurb on the back and the pretty cover picture on the front. And I will send one of these out to you. So thank you for listening again. And I really hope that you have enjoyed what you've heard so far and are keen to hear more. So until next time, thank you and bye.
Somehow realize what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.